JDs and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. And XDEFIANT is right around the corner. Every day we inch closer to that inevitable time frame we've been given of the end of Q1, which if you guys did not know is around March kind of 31st, between the 24th and 31st of March. So we're going to be getting something around then. And at this point, I feel like I'm starting to turn into an XDEFIANT channel here on YouTube. And because that's really what we've been talking about so much over the past week. But the reason is I'm starting to get that itch again for a first-person, like, arcadey, fun-style game, and we know that Call of Duty's not going to solve that issue for me, and I don't even want to get started on the finals and just everything about that game, because it's not my cup of tea. If you like, you like it. If you don't, you don't. That's kind of where I am with it. But nonetheless, we know that Q1, like I said, is the planned launch, and like many of you, I'm watching in and day out for an update from the team, but I wanted to talk about one thing that we could go in and break down that I think will be a big reason for the success of XDEFIANT. And no, it's not because of the skill-based matchmaking not being in it. It's not because it's free to play. I just think that there's one thing inside the game that makes it so unique and allows for the unbelievable amount of customization and future updates. Now, real quick, if you guys enjoyed the video and you want to stay up to date with all things XDEFIANT first-person shooter, just video game related overall, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. It means the world to me. We upload almost every single day here on the channel. We're on the road to just growing the channel and building a giant family of just fun people and just commenting and talking and discussion down in the comment section below. So, do the thing, and yeah, let's hop right into it. So the best way for me to describe XDEFIANT is that it's this class-based first-person shooter game. There are 5 different factions with many more coming in later seasons. Now, each class is based off of another Ubisoft title, and that's the part that I want to talk about, is because that leaves an opportunity to bring in some really cool factions in the future for later season content, updates, everything like that. We are going to have updates that should, in my opinion, be tailored around a specific faction. And let's go through the ones that are coming right now in the game and what we're getting, what games they're from, and then we'll briefly talk about some of the ones I'd love to see in the future. So first up, we have the Cleaners, which is inspired from Tom Clancy's The Division, and I'll put a graphic on screen here directly from XDEFIANT talking about what they are. And remember, each one of these factions have an ultra, a passive trait, and then 2 abilities that you can select from when choosing the characters you want to be. For example, for the Cleaners, their ultra is the Purifier, which is that flamethrower that does a ton of damage. It was like an insta-kill with an unbelievable amount of range. Their passive trait, which is always active, was their rounds shot fire rounds. And then their abilities were both the Incendiary Drone and the Firebomb. But this was from The Division. They were able to implement some of the best parts of the Cleaners that took place in The Division. If you've played The Division, you know that the Cleaners were the ones that went through the city, and they basically were fire people. They would just burn things. They would attack people with fire, and their job was to try to remove the infestation from what I think was New York City. That's what they did. It was their tool was fire. So implementing that into the game, they did that in a perfect way. It's balanced. It's not completely broken. And that's something that I like to see with each of the factions. So the next up on the list, we have the Phantoms. These come from Ghost Recon's Phantoms. I actually didn't play that one. I played a lot of Wildlands, and this just kind of adds into the idea that there are so many Ghost Recon games that there is probably unlimited amount of factions that you could bring into the game. There's another game I'm going to talk about in the future near the end of this video that I really think they could pull a lot from, and it would be quite simple from them. But going through them, their ultra was the Aegis, which is I'm going to pronounce that and butcher that wrong, but it was a sphere, like a dome that you put around you. This guy basically turned you into Bubble Boy, allowed you to walk around, and you can just use a scatter gun that eliminated people that walked into that bubble. Then they had their passive trait, which gave them a little more health, which honestly, I don't even think I noticed that until near the end of like one of the betas. I didn't even realize that they had more health. It wasn't something that was completely broken. We'll talk about a health one that's completely broken here in a little bit. You guys might know is coming. But then their abilities were both the Blitz Shield and the Mag Barrier, which I found myself using the Mag Barrier actually quite a bit. This is probably like my 2nd to 3rd favorite entire faction that I got to use inside the beta. And then moving along to what was my favorite, which is Echelon, which was inspired by Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, a game that is near and dear to my heart. I grew up playing it. I love it. It's one of my favorite things ever. And by far was my favorite ultra ability inside the entire game, which was the sonar goggles. It gave you this basically like 007 golden gun style thing that was a insta-kill to a headshot or a 1 to 2 shots to body, and you got to see the people outlined in red while in night vision. Was like a nostalgia trip for me for Splinter Cell. But they had the passive trait of low profile, so you do not appear on the minimap at all, whether you're shooting, no matter what it is. Then they had their abilities of the intel suit and the digital ghillie suit. I never really used the ghillie suit. I used intel way more than anything. I think this was my favorite class overall, just to play most styles, because I'm like a run and gun, stay off the map kind of player. So I found this to be the most fun and unique one for me. And of course, Splinter Cell is just so fun to me. Moving on to what is the most broken one that was abused like crazy inside of the entire beta and every playtest I've ever played. You guys know it. You know it from Far Cry 6. It's Libertad. I might pronounce that wrong, but that's how I've always pronounced it. And their Medico Supremo was the most broken ability in all of the Ultra abilities. People were spamming this like crazy. Their entire thing, they don't really have like a passive, I guess. It does say on here that they have a contagious spirit of freedom that slowly heals you and your nearby allies. It wasn't that noticeable, but their entire like thing is built around health and healing and all that. And the Bovada or BioVita boost, whichever one that is, the ability there was so overused. I mean, every gunfight someone was spamming that to insta-heal themselves. It was insane. And I know they did try to nerf a little bit with a cooldown, and with a game that doesn't have like a locking class system where one person's allowed to select only one type of agent, then or one type of faction, then you're going to have that. There were so many games we played where the entire 6 players on the enemy team were all running the exact same thing. It was insanity. Most broken one, I won't lie, I played it quite a bit as well, but not my favorite. And then finally, one that you were able to unlock in the beta, and if you earned enough XP, you would have unlocked it early for early access or for when the game launches, but it'll be the unlockable faction when the game officially, whenever inevitably it does launch, and that's DedSec, and that was inspired by Watch Dogs 2. I played Watch Dogs, didn't like it that much. I know a lot of people there's like a passionate group of people that loved Watch Dogs and Watch Dogs 2, so more power to them. I didn't use this kind of group as much, this faction, as much as I'd like to. There was a little bug with it a couple times, but I do know that the spider bot is one of the most annoying and funniest entire ability in the entire game. Watching that little bug just run at you and jump at your face, I can't tell you the number of times that me and my friends would scream when that thing would come at us. So definitely a fun one. It's a unique one, and it kind of shows how creative they can get with these factions. So now this is where we can kind of dabble in like the thought process of what you could do for future content inside of XDefiant. And when it comes to other Ubisoft titles, there is an unimaginable amount of routes they can go for new content. And a few I can think of and that I'd love to see. Well, first, overall, my favorite series of all time is Assassin's Creed. And I know there was a rumor buzzing around that Assassin's Creed was eventually going to get its own faction inside of XDefiant. I don't know exactly what they would do for that. Please give me Ezio, because that man is just... I love that game, that title, all about it. The early Assassin's Creed, to me, are some of the best Assassin's Creeds ever made. It's one of the first, like, single-player games I played growing up that I truly fell in love with. And the way I look at this is, like, no matter the game they go through, whatever like game they pull from the Ubisoft library, you're able to tailor an entire season or like roadmap around that game. So for example, let's just use Assassin's Creed and say that you get an Ezio and he gets abilities and whatever it might be, but we know that the maps inside of XDefiant are going to be unique to that of other Ubisoft games as well. Like every map is tied into, well, almost every map is tied into other Ubisoft titles, whether it's a Tom Clancy Division title or Far Cry or whatever it might be. You can then kind of make that entire season branch around that. The new maps you might be adding could also be from Assassin's Creed's universe. And think about it, there's so many Assassin's Creed that the amount of content you could put in is just unimaginable. There is so much that you could have of, and I know that XDefiant probably already has this planned and all that, and I would love to see it happen. But another really, really popular title that I think would be easy for them to pull and pluck from is Rainbow Six Siege. It's one of the most popular Ubisoft titles, if not the most popular multiplayer title they've ever made still to this day. It's an amazing, fun, competitive game, and a lot of people have compared certain aspects of XDefiant to that of Rainbow Six, where, in my opinion, Rainbow Six is a little more strategic and a lot more slow-paced, and it's not the same as what XDefiant's going to do, but it ties into that same Ubisoft style. But you can pluck a ton, and I mean a ton, of characters from Rainbow Six Siege. I think they're on like season 12. I mean, you could correct me in the comments. I could be completely wrong on that. It could be 18 for all I know, but last time I played it recently with some friends. There are so many new characters that I've never seen before, and that's something that I would love to see XDefiant go and do. You already have weapons and operators and abilities even from that game. You even have maps you could take aspects from. So it'd be cool to see a collaboration between those two. But let me know down in the comments section below. How do you feel about this? What games would you like to see? I know we're all excited for XDefiant, and the question of the day for this video, and if you made it this far, answer this in the comment section below if you can. Let me know. How did the alphabet get put in the order that it's in right now? Like, who thought of that? Why did it happen? And enlighten me a little bit. But I love you guys to death. Appreciate all the love and support recently here on the channel. You guys have been amazing. You are one of a kind, beautiful people. And I will see you guys in the next video. Until then.
Dishes, boys.